Have you ever wished you could just find a magic potion? You know, something to solve all your money problems? Well, today we're diving into a classic fable about a guy who believed he could do exactly that. It's a fantastic story about the ultimate shortcut to wealth, a really bizarre recipe, and a wise old sage who knew what was really going on.
I mean, seriously, what if you could turn anything into gold? Just think about it. It's the ultimate get-rich-quick dream, right? The biggest shortcut of all. And for the main character in our story today, this wasn't just some daydream. Nope, it was an all-consuming obsession, and it was about to drive every single thing he did.
All right, so let's meet our guy. His name is Ramanatha. Now, he wasn't poor or anything. In fact, he inherited a massive fortune in super fertile land from his rich dad. But here's the thing. Instead of actually, working the land, the real wealth that was literally right under his feet, his mind was somewhere else entirely. He was looking for let's just say, a more magical way to get rich.
And this right here, this is the heart of the problem, isn't it? On one hand, you've got his reality, acres and acres of valuable land, a real, tangible asset just waiting to be used. But on the other hand, you have his dream, this fantasy of a magic potion. And he poured everything, all his time, all his money, into chasing this illusion. And you can probably guess what happened. He got tricked over and over again by con artists who were more than happy to take his money in exchange for false promises.
Yeah, and this obsession wasn't happening in a vacuum. It had real, painful consequences. His wife, Madhumati, she had to stand by and watch in despair as their entire family fortune just disappeared, wasted on this wild goose chase. She could see it, plain as day. They were headed straight for ruin.
So, just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a famous wise sage named Mahapati happens to visit their town. Ramanatha, who's absolutely desperate at this point, sees this as his last shot. He goes up to the sage and asks him the one question he's asked 100 times before. Do you know the secret to the potion? And you're not going to believe this. The sage says, yes.
But the recipe he gets, it's just bizarre. The sage tells him, okay, first you have to plant a bunch of banana plants. Then you have to water them yourself every single day. And then, during the few winter months each year, you need to collect the morning dew off their leaves. We're talking one tiny drop at a time. And he had to keep doing this until he had gathered
5 liters. Can you even imagine that? 5 liters of dew collected drop by painstaking drop. Ramanatha, understandably, kind of freaks out. He's like, wait a minute, winter only lasts a few months. A task like this, it's going to take me years.
And the sage's response is pretty straightforward. He says, look, you can plant as many banana trees as you want. Go nuts. But, and this was the big but, there was one rule you absolutely could not break. He had to do all the work himself. No hiring help. The planting, the watering, collecting every single drop of dew, it all had to be done with his own 2 hands.
So, with the promise of that magic potion dangling in front of him, Ramanatha actually gets to work. But what happens next? Well, it's not at all what he expected. In fact, it's probably not what anyone could have expected.
So, for the very first time in his life, Ramanatha starts working, like really working. He clears out those neglected fields and starts planting rows and rows of banana trees. Fast forward 3 years, and the plantation is thriving. The trees are loaded with fruit, and his super practical wife, Madhumati, starts selling them at the local market. And then, 6 long years go by. And at the end of it all, Ramanatha has 2 amazing things: a massive, successful banana plantation, and one very, very precious bottle holding exactly 5 liters of dew.
He did it. He actually did it. After 6 years of hard labor, he takes that bottle of dew to the sage. This is it. This is the moment he sacrificed everything for. The moment of truth has finally arrived.
So the sage just smiles, says a few quiet words over the bottle, and hands it back to him. He tells him, go on, test its power. So after all that work, after all that time, the big question is, did it work? Was the magic actually real? So Ramanatha, his hands probably shaken, sprinkles a few drops onto a plain old copper vessel. And he waits. And he keeps waiting. But nothing. Absolutely nothing happens. The pot is still just a pot. And he is furious. He starts yelling that he's been cheated, that he just wasted 6 whole years of his life on a lie. But the sage, he just calmly smiles and delivers the first big truth bomb.
There is no magic potion that can turn things into gold.
And right at that moment, the sage calls for Madhumati, his wife. She comes in carrying this big, heavy box, and when she opens it, Ramanatha's jaw just drops. It is overflowing with gleaming gold coins. He's just stunned. He has no idea where all this gold could have possibly come from.
And that's when the sage reveals the real secret. The gold? It had nothing to do with the dew. It was all the profit that his wife had been saving up from selling thousands and thousands of bananas. Bananas that came from the very plantation that he built with his own 2 hands. The real magic potion? It was his own hard work all along.
And that right there is the heart of this entire story. The sage played a trick on him for sure, but it wasn't to be cruel. It was to teach him a lesson, a really important one, that he probably never would have learned any other way.
The wisdom here is so clear, isn't it? Real wealth, the kind that lasts, isn't something you just find in a magic bottle. It's something you create through your own effort. Ramanathan's hard work, his perseverance, that was the real magic potion. The quest for the dew didn't magically make gold appear. What it did was even better. It transformed a lazy dreamer into a hard-working, successful farmer. And the ultimate lesson here is simple. When it comes to real, sustainable success, there just aren't any shortcuts.
So this old story leaves us with a question that feels very, very modern. What are the magic potions that we're chasing in our own lives? You know, what are the get-rich-quick schemes or easy way outs we're looking for when the real gold, the real value, might be hiding in the hard work that we keep putting off? It's definitely something to